small agenda. We wanted to keep it on track because we knew you guys were coming tonight. Otherwise, we would have probably canceled tonight.
Otherwise, we'd have canceled. You guys are important, so thank you for the meeting. So, would like to kick off
And if I could do one introduction on that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. So at a board meeting, a presentation is that, it's just that, it's a presentation, it's a chance for you to give information to the board, present your ideas or thoughts, any recommendations or things like that, you can certainly put those forward. The board may at some point ask you questions to get further understanding of it, and then that's kind of the end of it. So it's a presentation, it's not a debate or an ongoing discussion, if that makes sense, okay? So, just so we understand that, and then you can direct everything to the board and the board chair, okay? All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, so who wants to lead off? Or Mr. Superintendent?
Go ahead.
Whoever it is that's doing the introduction.
Oh.
Would you like me to turn off one light or?
Let's do it. Man, he's over. Sorry.
Should I turn off a light?
That would be a good idea. Well, thank you, first of all, for allowing us to present today. The name of our presentation is Presenting Students with Opportunities for Success.
We are here to represent academic competitors and in particular Destination Imagination. For the sake of time, we humbly request that comments and questions can be saved for afterwards unless if completely necessary. We will have plenty of time to cover those in the end, of course, so thank you. I am Jody Claflin. I'm in 11th grade and this is my 4th year of Destination Imagination.
I'm Nathan Sunday. I'm also in 11th grade and this is my 9th year of Destination Imagination.
I'm Paige McCoy. Again, I'm also in 11th grade, and this is my 4th year of Destination Imagination.
My name is Ashley Berg. I'm in 11th grade and this is my first year here.
I'm grew-jasken. Guess what grade I'm in? This is my 9th year of Destination Imagination.
And I'm Sawyer. I'm in 11th grade, surprise. And this is my 8th year of Destination Imagination.
And our team name is...
Wait for it.
I'm hitting the forward button and I'm only getting half.
There you go.
Okay, so here we have some excerpts from ESCO School's Vision, Annual Goals, and 2014 to 2019 Strategic Plan, also known as the School Goals. The ESCO School Administration will review fine arts and co-curricular offerings, seeking additional opportunities to build on current academic classes while increasing collaboration between the academic departments at school and the community at large. And this was found in Strategic Plan 2014 to 2019. One of the goals was review extracurricular offerings, seeking additional opportunities to build on current academic classes, increasing collaboration between academic departments and the community, staffing patterns, programs to meet needs, and administration will recommend staffing patterns and programs that will best meet the needs of 21st century workforce. And more about that is on the next slide. To better define 21st century learning, it is the skills the students by incorporating, the district will provide 21st century learning skills to the students by incorporating instruction in critical thinking, analytical thinking, problem solving, collaborative learning, and evaluation skills into our learning activity. The term 21st century skills is generally used to refer to certain core competencies, such as collaboration, digital literacy, critical thinking, and problem solving that advocates the beliefs schools need to teach to help students thrive in today's world. In providing K through 12 graders with iPads, the school has strongly supported the goal of digital literacy. By supporting Destination Imagination, the district would support every other aspect of 21st century learning. And administration will recommend staffing patterns and programs that will best meet the needs of 21st century workforce. And by having DI be more supported through this, we can cover the rest of them, while the iPads cover one and a couple of these.
All right. So, what is Destination Imagination? DI is a 38-year-old international competitive program which is meant to inspire and equip the future generations into becoming effective leaders in innovation. What does teachidodi.org says, and I quote, "In working to solve our challenges, teams learn 21st century skills, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, citizenship, and courage. Step outside of their comfort zones to pursue ideas and make presentations and build on their unique strengths." So basically, it is 21st century learning. That's kind of the point there. And then it also says, and I quote, "These challenges are scaled down versions of industrial, political, educational, and technological problems of the sort faced in the real world. The skills they must develop and use are those which they will use in the real world. The programs are developed annually to ensure they are relevant and aligned to national education standards, STEM standards, ELA Common Core standards, and Mathematic Common Core standards." So basically, it's reviewed every year to make sure that it actually helps us in the real world. It's not just kind of thrown together. It's specifically for that purpose, to help us. Alright, and then facts about EHS support for academic competition. When it comes to academics, we receive around approximately $50 to $200 per academic competitor. Figures above do not include fundraisers, so that's all given by the school. We do our own individual fundraisers, and they tend to be fairly small, but they get a small amount of money for us. Requests to school administrators to approach MNSHSL about adding academic programs have gone unanswered so far. And facts about EHS support on sports is approximately $2,000 or $2,462 per athlete. Using 2014 figures for 227 high school athletes, 409,000 in direct spending, and then about 150 grand in the yearly sports complex. That adds up to about 2,462 once you do all the math. And these funds above do not include funding provided by MNSHS League or fundraisers. And then to help us understand the paradox, ESCO High School District obviously wants to be the cutting edge of academic excellence. It's actually our claim to fame. Yet academic competitors receive less than 1% of the funding athletic competitors receive. If you do the math, you'll see that most academic competition coaches aren't paid. They are volunteer teachers and parents. Throughout the years, dozens of ESCO students interested in Destination Imagination have turned away due to lack of coaching and funding support. A bunch of us have actually stepped up, and most of us have actually coached a team at one point because we really believe in this program and we wanted to see it flourish a little more.
And there are students who aren't even in DI, high school students who have gone out of their way to coach elementary teams because they as well believe that this program can help them so fully in the future.
Because we as a student body, we all believe in this. It's just we don't feel we've received the same amount of support that other programs have. Information from ESCO program. Right. Despite the program's success in achieving global levels of competition, DI funding has been further cut this year through demotion to community ed. Claims that a survey showed a lack of interest in Destination Imagination are based upon data from students who have already been let down, turned away from the program. Uncritical acceptance of the survey interpretation is troubling. So kids at an early age are being kind of discouraged from DI because of the lack of funding in the elementary level. So when they get to the high school level, they aren't interested in it anymore.
It's a lack of coaches as well. There are a lot of kids who sign up for DI who don't get to be in DI because there's not enough coaches out there to, coach them.
And kids these days, they're really smart. They don't want to be a part of something that isn't supported. They want to know that they can feel comfortable in an activity that they can exceed in and excel in. And DI, well, it definitely provides an excellent learning opportunity. It isn't presented with the support and promotion that it needs to truly reach all those students with help. So, this is what we're requesting. Our short-term goal is appropriate financial aid required to bring this program to its completion, whether that is regional competition, state competition, or global competition. Global competition that costs approximately $12,000 at $2,000 per student. This is only 80% of the 2013 to 2014 per diem for athletic competitors. Our long-term goal would be to have a fund solely for academic competitors, not athletic competitors. Funds used would roll from year to year. In addition, all of us are willing to pay the activity fees similar to those charged for sports. Like, I know for a fact that me and Soder were in track at one point, and we had to pay a $140 activity fee. With us, you know, that sounds reasonable, that's okay. There's also a saying that we've heard before called robbing Peter to pay Paul. Meaning that if we take money away from the athletic competitors, that's basically what we're doing, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. However, the questions behind the question are, why does Peter have all the eggs in his athletics basket to begin with? Don't the academics people stand a chance? Don't we deserve one? And why has Peter's academic basket so stubbornly remained empty amidst a growing culture of 21st century learning goals? I think it's time for a change.
Now, there are some pretty cool things about this in getting ahead of a trend that may pop up in the near future. We would be the first in the area to give equitable funding to academic competitors, and the possibilities of donation from big corporations for being so proactive and unique about this, they're pretty high actually. A lot of corporations want to see more capable people moving into the workforce, and we believe that Destination Imagination could, well, prepare kids to move up into the ranks, become managers, CEOs, bosses, whatever you can think of. And it would be fantastic publicity for ESCO to do this. Imagine, if you will, the news, perhaps Duluth News Tribune, publicizing ESCO now supports their academic competitors.
Not only just supports them, but supports them better than other schools, because this is a growing trend among other schools that they just aren't supported as well. So if ESCO were to get ahead of that curve, it would be amazing publicity.
And what we want to know is, if the answer is no, why? Aren't we as valuable as those participating in athletics? We all remember a massive banner that once hung in the ESCO Elementary entrance that said, "Cherish every student." We, as students, are respectful to teachers. We get good grades, and we even volunteer at sporting events. However, as students, and as people in this school, we do not feel cherished. We want to level the playing field. As it stands, we're in a valley, and the athletic competitors are on the peak of the highest mountain. All we want here is equality. We feel that we deserve equal opportunities within the fields of our interests so that we can flourish and develop our own skill sets and bring something wonderful into the world. All we want is the same support that the athletic competitors get so that we, as they do, can fulfill our own unique potential. Is that so much to ask? Thank you once again for your time and listening to us. We appreciate your consideration in this endeavor, and we hope that you help our dreams come to fruition.
If you have any questions, we're willing to take them, if that's allowed.
Yeah, we would, with the board.
Okay.
Yeah, the board might have a few questions for you, some follow-up.
So I've got first questions. How many kids are in DI right now, and what grade do you guys start at?
This year there were currently, I believe, 6 teams in the elementary level. That's an average of 6 students per team, 1 middle and 2 high schools. So that's a total of 9 teams. That's about around 54 students in DI.
And that those coaches, there are student coaches who are not actually in DI who are coaching elementary teams this year.
How often do the teams meet?
We meet once a week, if not more. Sometimes we meet on the weekends to meet the times of the competition, because they tend to be, how long do we usually have? A few months, like 4 or 5 months before the competition, and sometimes we'll meet on weekends. We'll usually go till 7:30 or so on Thursday nights, and so it's usually once a week, if not more, if the team decides to do so.
And then I know that some teams also like to meet either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. Those are elementary teams that need just a little more time to get their stuff done.
And the season is actually September through May. So although it's not meeting every day like a football team, it's for almost the entire school year. So these guys are also learning to prioritize. Several of them are involved in theater and got academic endeavors as well. So it's a long running program. It's a big commitment.
Yeah, and so you have like 2 to 4 months to get your project
It's around more 4 to
Challenge
5.
figured out.
It depends on when the team decides to start. We usually start in September. The first competition's in March, so that gives us
So you keep evolving your
it's about
project?
8 months actually.
It's a good amount.
Yes, we keep, we basically start off where we have to make a script and we have to figure out how to meet the requirements of the challenge. And so we build a script off that and we make a small 8-minute max performance and we perform this to judges who judge us on creativity, problem solving, teamwork, a lot of that kind of thing. And then there are different kinds of challenges such as technical, structural. So like technical, most of the time you need to have some sort of technical element, such as this year we did a bunch of rewiring of things in order to have electricity in our performance, since we were not allowed to plug into the wall. And structural is a lot of weight-based challenges, so you need to build something with a certain amount of materials that can hold a certain amount of weight. And then there's always the theatrical, which is solely based on visual arts. So
Scientific as well allows students to delve further into the fascinating world of science, and there is also a project outreach in which teams take on a big volunteering project of some type that fits to the theme of that year and try to make a difference in their communities.
So, yeah, I guess that was my question. I understand you formulate a response to the challenge like in the first 5 months, which would bring you to, what, January, February, and then what do you do after that? How's the competitions? I know you just said when you Proctor.
The first competition is the regional competition, and that is usually in Proctor, and that's where the teams, well, the DI teams from the surrounding area gather in one place, and they all, whatever their challenge was, they present to judges to, well, judge. And if they move on from there, getting usually first, second, or maybe third, they go to the state competition, where there are more advanced teams to go up against, and it's pretty much the same thing, but on a much larger scale. And if you move on from state, you move straight to globals. There's no nationals, we don't know what that is, but there's a globals, and that is down in Tennessee, actually, and there are over 30 countries around the world that gather in this big DI competition, and it allows the competitors to experience different cultures. We stayed with the Chinese in our dormitories. We get to see different cultures, different languages. We try to communicate mostly through hand signals because we speak Mongolian right now here, but it's just a wonderful experience. And last time we got to do it, we didn't have a whole lot of knowledge on what could possibly happen, but now that we've gotten to experience it, we know how fantastic and beautiful it all is down there, so we would love to get the opportunity to go back, both for ourselves and for other teams.
Yeah, and we learned a lot too, like the way different countries treat each other down there. Like some of them were neglectful, especially in like Asian countries that were in dispute. They were almost like, I believe it was the Chinese and the
South Koreans we got to stay with
the
in the same
Chinese
building.
were not allowed to. The Chinese kids weren't allowed to even acknowledge the South Koreans because that's just the way politics works right now in the world. And it was kind of a mind-boggling experience to see that really up close.
because we learned several of this stuff in like economics and social studies and world history, but we don't really quite understand the severity of it until we experience it for ourselves. And I think that was really kind of shocking because when a South Korean team had won third place, I believe, they walked up and most of the crowd cheered. And it was China was in this large section of a basketball rink, and we were right next to them. And I can guarantee you there were maybe like 2 people in the entire, maybe like 200 people there of China that clapped for the South Koreans. It was actually kind of scary.
A little bit mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Very eye-opening.
Yeah, you see world cultures come to life there. It's
Really fascinating, actually.
How many adult team managers do you have currently, and how many faculty are involved with DI?
we have Miss Bergstead doing the thing. We have our team manager, and then
I think there's 3 other
Adult coaches.
adult coaches.
yes.
And then the rest are students.
Student coach teams.
I find it impressive personally that students have taken it upon themselves in their love for DI to step up to the plate of coaching these younger students who want to be involved.
And there have been teachers in the past that have coached as well, like Miss Amy, who is right next door here, but I know Miss Drebler coached some teams for a while.
Up until now, I think it's apparent that that the reason why DI has become so successful for some teams and why it has lasted this long at ESCO is because of the people who are involved in it. They truly love DI. They've grown up with it. They've learned things from it. It's shaped the way that they view and perceive the world. I think that's one of the most meaningful things an extracurricular activity can offer, and that's another reason why I think that Destination Imagination would be so important to consider for some more funding, or at least some more, awareness being spread through the school.
Mm-hmm.
And on another side note, all coaches that coach, they are not allowed to do any hands-on work. We, as the students, as the people in the teams, we have to do all of the building. Only thing that adults are allowed to do is show us how to do it as an example, but otherwise everything seen built at these competitions, every script, every play, everything that goes on is made solely by the team.
And we don't only work on DI during our meetings, whether those are on Thursdays, whether we have extra ones tossed around the week, and we often do. There's also a lot of individual work, a lot of individual brainstorming and creative costume design that we do at home. Like last year, I learned some sewing techniques from my mother, and I ended up making a nice, beautiful green dress as a costume. And I didn't know how to do that before, and now I'm actually making more costumes at home for a convention that I'm going to in May, and if it wasn't for DI, I wouldn't know how to do that kind of stuff, and I'm really glad that I do. And we also learned, Rose took it upon herself, she looked up these techniques in order to make masks by using, what was it?
Plaster cast.
Plaster casting, yeah, and it's truly amazing some of the stuff that we've gone out of our way to research and actually put together, just through our own interest and our own determination to succeed.
And without DI, we wouldn't have been exposed to any of these new skills, like construction, wiring, different arts such as sewing, mask making.
How about the
None of this.
hovercraft?
We built a working hovercraft a couple of years ago, that was great. We wouldn't have been exposed to any of that if it wasn't for DI.
The concept that these students are discussing about the student-generated solutions to these problems is defined by Destination Imagination as interference, and it's a fairly detailed rubric that they put out. And during the competitions, and it becomes more intense at each level, the students are separated out and questioned separately about the process that they use to arrive at their certain solutions. The judges come back together and put the stories out, and the teams who find that adults have contributed in some way to the solution are disqualified. So it's unique in academic competitions in that the coaches can only facilitate problem-solving skills. So that's one of the unique features of Destination, as opposed to robotics, where the parents can come up with a solution and the kids implement it. So it's a different twist, 21st century learning.
Yeah, I have read about it. It is, I'm gonna go to your regionals and affiliates and locals, what your instant challenges when you go to all of the different rubrics for grade, assessing points for teams. Very interesting, but it doesn't tell you how often you need to, not too much about the fees, but I think I have a pretty good understanding of that. I'm not sure if the rest of the board does.
I do have I don't want to interject in here, I do have a little bit of a budget sheet kind of. Would you be okay if I pass it out to the board?
Yeah.
I did check with Michael, make sure it's on track. It came from Christina Walther, not me, since we created this.
So I got one more question. What kind of fundraising do you guys do right now? Try to bring some of
And I
these
made
jobs?
10
Yeah,
copies.
currently we are on half days. We do this thing where we have elementary kids who have parents that are still working. We bring them down to the blue gym. We have a concession set up, and we monitor them as they play around. We play with them. We interact with them for about 3, 4
hours. Yeah, and I do face painting for those. And then we've also volunteered at Barnes and Noble event for academic competitors
Actually,
and
multiple Barnes once in a war went, right?
Yeah, I
pretty sure,
believe
yeah.
so. There was one more that I'm trying to think.
And then we also did a fundraising where we had to sell movie tickets, and so basically we went around the school and we figured out who wanted to go to this, and any money that the theater would then had, so like they would say, if we sold for $10 and it was $6 fee to pay for the movie, we'd get the $4.
And we also sell Mother's Day flower baskets.
So lots of different.
There's a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, and you also wrote letters to community businesses and in your families, and you did a social media campaign. The year we had to spend $12,000 to get to Globals.
Yes.
Yep, I actually went to several of my parents' friends' corporations. I went to USG where my dad works. I went to Macy's where my mom's cousin works. I went to one of the banks in Cloquet. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. And a couple of them were actually willing to put in money towards this program. And so it just shows that it's something that has a lot of support. It's just not very well known. So if we can make it very well known, it can get very much a lot of publicity. And
And as the team coach, the requirement that I placed on them was that when my son Zach was in football, they did from about 8 to 12 hours of community service, and I said that that's the minimum that any of you, if you want to be in this team this year, need to do is the 12 hours, and most of them have done
Far
in
surpassed
excess
that.
of 16 or 20. So just want to point out that they're doing their
That's
fair share.
absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
So that's required of your team, or all teams do that?
I'm only in control of these 6.
I don't think it's an expectation of the whole program, but Michael brought it in his team.
Yeah, well,
And we
To
would very
each
much
center.
support if that became a norm, that everyone had to put in a certain amount of community hours. Like, we'd be perfectly willing to do that across the board.
And we're certain that other teams would be perfectly fine with that as well, if you want everyone to match what sports teams do in terms of fundraising community service.
I think I did read that on the TI website as far as during the off season that they try to do a project that relates to the challenge, some sort of community outreach.
So who's the parent sponsor of Destination Imaginations? When you say you go to state, who's state? Who's creating state? Who's running state, so to speak? Like, for instance, you bring up sports law, and I don't know if it's in either or, but ours are through the Minnesota State High School League, sponsors those, runs them, blah, blah, blah. Who runs the DI state competition, and then
I
who
believe
runs
it's
the global?
MNDI, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Pamela Schroeder, who we contacted about the Minnesota State High School League, and then I tried to get her in connection with Chad, the activities director, and I never heard any result if that ever I even called and found out that Chad was on the Minnesota State High School League board. So that was kind of a nice in, but I never got anything back. So we thought maybe DI didn't want to be part of the Minnesota State High School League. It's entirely possible that they want to remain nonprofit, and that being part of the state funded organization they'd lose their nonprofit status, but we're not sure.
Okay. So they're their own entity, so it's a DI entity.
Yeah, and it is an international entity.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I am 95% sure that DI was actually created in Minnesota. Is that right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, I heard that
It originated here,
Yeah.
and now it goes across
It was
the
Odyssey
world.
of the Mind before it was
Yeah, it was
Destination
Odyssey of the Mind before it was
Imagination.
Destination Imagination. Some people know by that name. But anyways, if that's the case, then it truly is amazing that you don't hear a lot of international news coming from Minnesota. But if that's the case, then it's truly amazing how it's actually spread globally and become an international event.
One thing I wanted to bring up, if you would bring it up, you have also been involved with social justice issues like bullying. Was that the year you went to Globals, or was that a
Yes.
different year?
Yes.
And tell them a little bit about that skit and how that impacted so many people in the community, and how you engaged the community via social media and having the YouTube channel where everyone could see the bullying message, anti-bullying message.
Our performance, it was supposed to be a silent play, and so what we did is we made that was the year we had the Blaster Pass masks, and we created a soundtrack of instrumental music, and we had a background it started outside the school, and there was a boy who looked all happy, and He's walking through, and I believe he's picked on. Is that right?
He's skipping through with his teddy bear and dancing around and being all happy, and then the bully comes in and, well, rips his teddy bear to shreds. And from there, it goes on to show the impact that even a single incident such as that can have on a small child, such as who Nate was that year. And essentially, he destroyed about the, well, destruction of his teddy bear, was tempted into learning how to fight and be mean and just be a generally nasty person by our representative evil spirit who was Paige that year. And in order to demonstrate this change, he had his plaster cast mask of his face, which he pulled off to reveal a different face, which looked very evil. That's the description of it's evil.
Yeah,
It was an evil
demonic.
thing.
It was
And
nasty.
he proceeds to confront the bully within a within the classroom. So he does that, of course. He doesn't hit the bully or anything, but he gets all standoffish and gives a little push and whatnot, and he gets caught by a teacher and gets further punished because, of course, she didn't know he'd been bullied. That was me that year. And as he's sitting in the dunce corner, he actually had a dunce cap and everything. It was great. The representative good spirit, which could have been another teacher, it could have been a kid who came to help him, could have been anybody to assist this kid, came and told him representatively, because it was a silent play, that there are better ways to get help, there are better ways to solve this issue, and you don't need to turn to violence in order to counteract other violence. And that was the message of our play when he turned back to being the good boy that we all knew he was from the beginning.
And it basically goes to show that the violence of bullying is terrible, but no matter what you do with more violence, it's just going to lead to more people getting hurt. And so that was basically our message, was to show that bullying was a misunderstanding that needed to be solved with kindness, and that spreading the kindness across would result in better people.
Not only did bullying send our main character on a path of destruction, it turned himself into a bully. Because he was bullied, he became a bully to others, and that's kind of, and oftentimes is, how it works for many children.
Yeah, that was a neat skit. There was for the adults that were watching it, there was a real strong redemption theme that went through it. The good being nurtured, the evil being nurtured into good and overpowering the original evil.
Yeah, once we stepped out and took all our masks and stuff off and looked out, there were tear-streaked cheeks in the audience of mostly adults because they understood the message so well. And it was a really touching moment for us, especially after our first performance of that in particular type of play, to see that people were so greatly moved by such a simple to us thing. And it just kind of went to show how DI and the things you do in it can have such a positive impact on the community.
And I think that message that we relayed was one of the key reasons why that performance was the very first one that sent us to globals.
Yeah, and we aren't like sports kids, so until we had DI, we didn't really have a program that helped us learn all those types of skills and those types of morals. So when we finally got an outlet for that and we were able to really express ourselves in that manner, it, for me at least, and I know it felt for you guys too, it felt amazing to actually be able to have that outlet for us.
And some of us have participated in sports. I know me for sure.
I have.
Yeah, everyone has. And it's just that this is an area where we feel, where we may not everyone can be good at sports, but this is an area that covers a wide variety of subjects, and it's a place where we excel, and it's a place where we found the opportunity to grow our abilities.
And it's a place where a lot of other kids could excel too if they had the chance to do so.
And I know many other students in our grade, like Judy, Ava, like all A.
Ariana, Paige Hill.
Yeah, they are all interested in DI too, but they're all in sports, and they love their sports, and they love the idea of DI, and it's hard for them to maintain both, so they usually stick with sports, and that's totally okay, but, I mean, they're
It's all
interested
just due
in.
to scheduling problems because
Yeah.
we all know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Schedule's
it's
crazy.
basically like to each his own, but for those who like and support DI more, we feel that we should be given the same opportunities as those who choose sports, because I believe that they deserve what they receive, but I also feel we deserve the same type of recognition.
Can I ask another question? When you go, you keep talking about globals, but it sounds like there's a state before globals, or you just automatically go to global?
No, you go to state, and then the competition there is actually pretty fierce because there's several teams from all around the state, and if you get, I believe it's first or second there, then you move on to the global
Okay.
level.
Yeah,
So
there's
my
no regionals.
question for you on that then is, how many days is state? Is it a 1-day event? Is it a 2-day event?
We usually drive down on Friday, and then we stay overnight, and then it's just that day. That's
It's just on
Saturday.
that one Saturday.
So it's 1 day, Saturday? It's
Yes.
one
Yeah,
day.
but depending on when your instant challenge begins and when your final performance is, you'll oftentimes have to be there from like around maybe 9 in the morning to 6 at night. It's an all day thing. It's a pretty big event.
And
It's
then,
not just the performance
is
fee on the
globals
instant challenge.
different? Is that a 1 day or is it a
Oh,
That's a
multi-day?
week,
That's
4
a
to 5
week.
day thing where they have, in our first year that we went there were 80 participants in one of our categories, and it's A through G, no, not G, like A through E, and so that's like 80 times 5, that's 400 teams times 6, 2,400 kids all involved in DI in the globals area, at least.
Even more,
And-
because you're just thinking about our middle section. There's
I
also
remember-
elementary,
Yeah.
there's also high school.
And there's other challenges
I
too.
remember reading in that year that there were approximately 8,000 teams
Yeah.
that went global.
39
That's a
countries.
week event then, so
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
week.
it's a full week event. And during that full week event, it's not all just focused on your performance and your instant challenge. There's different events that they hold. There's different little
classes.
parties with different culturally based foods and
Yeah.
practices and things like that. There's lots of fun little things. There's an aquatic center.
I remember they were teaching kids how to make outfits and clothing out of duct tape, and then they had this duct tape ball.
Oh yeah.
They had the buffet, I believe, of nations. It was called that, and it was like food from every country that was participating.
In
It
order
was-
to
that was
experience
cool.
different cultures and
Mhm.
how really different all the people are in this world, and so it kind of just showed how wide range this program is.
It's a very diverse program.
I tried pig intestines for the first time.
Surprisingly, they were the American dish. Yeah.
I know we've been up here for quite a while, but one thing that we forgot to mention was instant challenge and how it relates to critical thinking, collaboration, team building. Just could just summarize what a instant challenge is and how that takes part in your competitions.
So an instant challenge is a small, around 6 to 8 minute based thing where you are given, as it's called, an instant challenge, where you are given criteria to meet in a certain amount of time. So you get, let's say, 5 minutes to prepare and then 2 minutes to perform. And so you have to meet that criteria in order to gain points for that competition. And so really what it is the reason it's like focused on critical thinking is because you only have 5 minutes to prepare this
Usually less.
2 minute skit. Yep. And sometimes create different objects that need to hold weight and stuff.
Yeah, you
Bridge a gap or
so-
something.
You walk in not knowing if it's going to be theatrical, structural, or a mix of both. Like you walk in having to know everything and be able to improvise with what you're given and
Yeah,
the
you have no
challenges you're
idea what the
given.
instant challenge is going to be upon walking into the room that it's
They're
held in.
nerve-wracking.
And that's when you learn to sort of collaborate with the other people in your group because you don't have time to argue about something. You only have time to cooperate. So it's kind of one of those things where an idea pops up and you have to agree with it and go with it. It's one of those yes situations where you can't say no because that falls back. You have to say yes and that is another improv kind of game that helps prepare teams for that.
And if you fail, if the team process fails, if their problem-solving skills aren't up to the task, they simply don't advance. You can't place without succeeding substantially in an instant.
Make
So
it or
that's where the
break it on
rubber
those,
meets.
so.
That's where the
It's
rubber
supposed to
meets
be
the road,
really
and they prove their
It's both
ability
the
to do
instant
this.
challenge and the main performance. Both of those points contribute to what place you get. And so you got to nail the instant challenge in order to actually succeed in DI. And a lot of times during the instant challenge, the coach isn't even allowed in the room, so it really is up to the children to work as a team and put their brains together in order to come up with the solution.
And it's also where the judges realize what teams have had help and realize like what teams actually can do this on their own, and they didn't just get help from their coach to do the challenge.
It's a great test and builder of independence.
Anything else? Question?
No, you guys did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
listening too. That was a little longer than intended.
We've been looking forward to presenting our ideas to you.